What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why NIO saw a very nice move today as it's up over 3%, and that's despite the fact that the Nasdaq and SPY actually closed kind of red. So I'm going to break down why this happened, what piece of news just came out, and what the news data and technicals are telling us about tomorrow for NIO and the markets. Now, before I break anything down about this though, before I get into any more details about NIO and what you should be watching for in the share price, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below in its description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and 5 out of those 7 free stocks can be a free NIO share. I also have another offer for you guys. If you want to sign up for Webull, all you have to do is download the app down below and also just sign up for it and deposit just $1 into the account or any amount you choose. If you just do that, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, and any could be worth up to $3,000. Any could be a free NIO share as well. So this is free money that you are going to get. This offer ends in just 3 days. In fact, both of the offers end in just 3 days at the end of March. So make sure you check it out if you want those 12 free stocks. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So anyways, NIO is up about 3.02% for the day. Once again, very, very awesome. And the overall structure is now starting to resemble a bullish triangle. It's not perfect just yet, but it is getting very close to potentially getting a breakout. And it is looking more and more bullish as the days go on. It's been actually continuing to pump, holding above this $8 level I was talking about. I mentioned to you guys that where NIO moves will depend on the market. I was actually very apprehensive and very cautious, but all of a sudden the bullish news came out. We do have a gap down here, but so far it is above $9. Now it's trying to fight for $9, and I believe that as long as it holds $9, it may not fill the gap down here yet. It might just try to keep on going. This will depend on what the market does, but overall, for the most part, NIO is holding up quite well, and we may actually see it continue to outperform the market for the time being. But why did NIO actually pump when the market closed red? Well, the answer is right here. The Chinese EV maker NIO. It plans to woo more buyers with 1,000 new battery swap stations as it prepares for a launch of budget cars. So NIO is working on actually affordability. It's working very hard on growing its business, and very, very soon it's going to be actually building another 1,000 stations this year using a new, more efficient design. So once again, that's super, super bullish news. The more stations that come out, the more individuals are likely to buy into NIO, and it's going to offer more and more products for their customers out there. Also, as they continue to grow faster, the growth that's coming from the company is going to be generating a lot more revenue, and they should continue to grow as time goes on. Now, I want to note that NIO's profit margins are not perfect as of right now, especially during the last quarter, but I'm sure NIO will give us an improvement for this quarter if we get a very good deliveries report, and the news is coming out in just a couple of days. So if NIO manages to hold these levels and they give us a strong deliveries report by the time we get into April, which is just a couple of days away, NIO is most likely going to continue popping. If we get a strong deliveries report, we need that. That's going to help NIO big time. But until then, I just want to note that NIO currently operates about 1,300 of these power swap stations. And once again, the customers love them because you could quickly exchange your battery for a fully charged one in a very short period of time. They also charge monthly fees for the battery and service, and a lot of people would prefer just doing that over filling the gas, excuse me. And this is once again very, very awesome news. Now, NIO gave us another awesome piece of news because NIO launched its partnership with Tibber, the premium tech energy provider, in order to offer complimentary smart charging solutions to NIO users in Norway, Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands. So this is once again even more bullish news. Another big deal has been closed, another partnership with a big, big, big tech energy provider, and they're going to continue to give better customer service to people in many different European countries. I consider this bullish news once again because good customer service could incentivize more sales, and as they continue to grow, this will help with their margins. I think that's going to be very important, especially their margins in like European countries and all over the world. And as they continue to grow, as more margins come, we're going to see NIO's share price improve even more going into the longer term future. This is once again even more bullish news for the long term. NIO is on a roll recently. So, anyways, excuse me, sorry guys. I want to talk about something else that's very important, and that is going to be the news that's coming out. There's not a whole lot coming out for tomorrow. We actually have some um, housing data that's coming out, nothing too significant. But for Thursday, we actually have some GDP numbers alongside initial jobless claims and also some Fed speakers. And then on Friday, we actually have the PC report coming out. So there's not a whole ton coming out until Thursday and Friday. But for tomorrow in particular, we do have some housing data, which could be somewhat significant. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. For the time being, NIO is actually, it was underperforming yesterday, but now it's starting to actually improve. So we might see NIO's price price ratio. I mean, we will see it start to improve as of right now. If it could bounce off this could help NIO gain momentum. On top of that, there's not a whole lot else going on except for the fact that NIO has a tendency of being green at typically 56% of the time on Wednesdays. That is a good sign as well. And also, the overall short interest is still, we haven't gotten an update in a couple of days, but since then, we did see an increase in the shorting. Let's just wait and see how this goes, because if NIO does continue to pop and they give us a strong deliveries report and it continues to increase its share value, we're going to see a lot of shorts get squeezed. That's the good thing about it. Volume was still kind of low, so we're not getting crazy buying pressure, but I do believe there was some short covering that played a bit of a role. Short volume is likely going to decrease now as we are starting to see buyers step in. Now, talking about the charts, I do have some good news and also some not so great news for NIO. The not so good news is the fact that right now the market is starting to show some weakness, so this could actually slow NIO down a bit. However, like I mentioned in my previous video, okay, yes, it looks like the Nasdaq is likely going to continue slowing down. We're seeing the QQQ also respecting this trend, but the very important zone we have to watch is around this 305 zone. We actually managed to hold very close to it today. If we hold this 305 zone, we could try to see this thing get a counter trend rally, but as of right now, there's no confirmation of it. On the hourly time frame, this thing actually failed to continue to break out much, and overall, the structure is still not looking the best. We actually saw this thing continue to downtrend. Even if you go into like today, there wasn't a whole lot that happened on the hourly time frame. We just dumped before getting a small bounce. What I think is going to happen is we're likely going to see the QQQ dump more, maybe retest 305, maybe go a little lower going into tomorrow. But I do believe it's going to try to bounce by the end of the week to squeeze shorts again. That is what I'm predicting because of what I'm seeing from the options chain. I will go over more details on the options chain maybe in another video, but I just want to note that all you need to know is people are shorting extremely hard right now. People think the market's about to crash. All right. We have about 1.7 plus million puts expiring for SPY on Friday with a 2.6 put to call ratio and a 395 being max pain. I just remember those. That's how I said it. But the bottom line is this is suggesting that, I mean, if the shorts are right, we could crash off GDP or PCE. But if the market makers come out on top, they might try to squeeze the markets again, right? So it could go either way. We have an indecision candle for the day. It's actually looking like a doji. And what else is important is we're actually in between the major support and resistance. If SPY breaks down tomorrow and we break below this like bear flag that we're currently in, what could end up happening is we'd likely come down to retest this 389 level. Sorry about that, where the 200 moving average is. If we fail at 389, this thing is going to tank. So we have to hold the 200 moving average. Resistance is at the 50 moving average around 399. We're stuck just in the middle right now. So I do think we're going to test this trend line again, maybe get to the 393s, maybe a little lower. But I'm thinking that we might see this thing hold for tomorrow, then get a very big reaction depending on the news that comes out affecting the initial jobless claims and the GDP numbers for Thursday. For the QQQ, we're likely going to see some downside and might retest this 304, 305 area, but I'm looking for a bounce maybe later during the week going into like Thursday or Friday. I think we should see a bounce by then. For NIO, and before I talk about NIO, the VIX is telling us once again it's actually testing support around 20 and closed around 19.97. it typically bounces around this area. So we might see the VIX bounce tomorrow, which could be bearish for the stock market. But there's no guarantee it has to just bounce super hard. It might try to bounce a little bit, but if it does break below 20, that could also be, once again, bullish for the stock market. We'll just have to wait and see how this thing performs, depending on if it bounces on 20 or not. If not, if it doesn't bounce here and it just keeps dropping, that could be bullish, right? And that could also help NIO. But what am I seeing for NIO? That's the bigger question. In my opinion, this is now starting to look like we had this like bull flag that was playing out and it's about to get a breakout and it might try to keep going. On the hourly time frame, I'm not really seeing much of a divergence as of right now. I'm not really seeing it. The RSI is pretty highly correlated with the overall like price action. I think right here, you could argue that there is a possible bearish divergence. You could technically argue that. Yes, we actually made a lower high and a higher low on the RSI. So it is a possibility, not really counting too much on it. I think it will depend on the markets. But I think the very important level to watch is $9. If you're bearish on NIO, this thing would have to drop below 9 and close below 9. If you're bullish on NIO, this bullish triangle-like setup should play out. NIO should get a breakout and try to get to the mid-9s. That's very possible, right? We could try to retest 9.45. It's very, very possible NIO tries that. What do I think is going to happen? Well, depends heavily on the news catalysts. Typically, when NIO sees a very good piece of news, it doesn't just like tank immediately. It actually holds up temporarily. So my prediction is going to be that even though there's this gap down here, if the market does drag NIO down, we could see NIO slow down just a little bit. It could actually try to hold $9 though, but it might try to bounce, and overall it might try to hold these levels quite nicely. And it might have a nice push up at the end of the day, something similar to this where it like gaps up, comes down, then it tries to bounce again. We might see something like that tomorrow. It gaps up and cools off a bit, gets to like the low 9s, then it pushes up again. And we might actually close a green again if the news helps NIO still. And I think that's very probable something like that happens. I think NIO might outperform the markets. We do have technically a bullish structure trying to develop, but we have to see this thing break 9.25 or the zone around there. In my opinion, I'm prepared for both the bullish and bearish cases as we do have a gap below, but I think NIO is going to try to outperform and it's going to try to hold up and try to get to 9.45 very soon. Now, I also want to note that even if NIO ends up failing, let's just say hypothetically, okay, this is not my prediction part, this is just like a hypothetical situation. If NIO fails and this thing comes down to like fill this gap, that's also going to be fine because we could retest the 200 moving average, go back to 9, maybe even the 8's completely fine with me because we have deliveries in a couple of days. If they give us a strong deliveries, it won't matter if NIO comes down temporarily. In fact, that would be fine because then she's going to rocket even more by the time April starts. We might see this thing approach 9.45 or even $10 thanks to a strong deliveries report if they give us that. I think it's very probable NIO will do that, seeing the confidence in the CEO recently. All right. So that's basically what I'm seeing for NIO. I think the odds are favoring some upside, but it will depend on deliveries that come out in a couple of days. But for the most part, I think NIO is going to hold up quite nicely, and we do have some potential to try to continue pushing up. With that said, thank you for listening. I think the market might slow NIO down just a little bit, like I said earlier, but then overall, I think NIO will prevail and try to break out again. So once again, hopefully I didn't confuse you when I said that, but that's what I have for this video. Thank you, NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.